decision or an act, the Citizenship Amendment Act passed by India's Parliament. There are some wounds in a nation's life which continue to drip long after the event itself. The partition of India, 7 one of the great difficulties about the partition was what would happen to the minorities of both countries. The two prime ministers first met to discuss this problem. On India's side, Jawaharlal Nehru. On Pakistan's side, Liaquat Ali Khan, as early as the 1950s. And reassurances were given that they would do everything to help the minorities of the two sides and resettle them, rehabilitate them. Because there was nothing called a complete demographic partition. There was no complete demographic partition for very good reasons. One, it was geographically virtually impossible. We had tremendously mixed populations. And number two, a large number of Indian Muslims, including my family, simply didn't want to go. The assurances were then repeated in 1955 and so on and so forth. But it was the ability of both countries to give citizenship rights to those who sought refuge as a consequence of partition. It was such a right which enabled, for example, our previous Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, who had come, a Sikh, who had come from West Punjab, or what is in today's Pakistan, to become an Indian citizen and indeed rise to the position of Prime Minister of India. This spasmodic rights, debate over rights, and the acquisition of citizenship was a continuing process. The present government decided that there should come a time when a cumulative reality which had been building up was converted into a de facto reality, since there were a large number of homes and families and people who had become virtually stateless. This law then gave rights to those particular people who had crossed the border as a consequence of partition. You must remember that there was never any debate about giving such right. Previous governments had given this right to previous claimants, and indeed, nobody ever thought of this as a controversy. As I said, Dr. Manmohan Singh himself had been one of the beneficiaries. At no point, because of this law, was an Indian Muslim, I repeat, I am an Indian Muslim, ever denied his rights living in India. There was no reduction in his existing rights as a citizen and as an equal citizen. There was a slight difference, not a slight, sorry, a major difference between the experience of minorities in India and minorities in Pakistan, because in India we had a constitution as early as 1950. And the constitution was a secular constitution which gave equality, freedom, and equal rights to everybody, irrespective of religion. We are all equal in India. And indeed, if you want to see the equality of India, those of you who have been to India, and those who I am going to eagerly suggest that you go to India as soon as possible, there are very few places better for a holiday. One of the things that you should go when you reach Delhi is not just see the avenues and the monuments, but go and see living India. Go to Old Delhi. And you may go there at 4 in the morning, go at 4:30 in the morning, and you will find something marvelous. You'll find that every day, every morning begins with the azan from the old mosque. And it is followed closely by the bells of the Hanuman temple, followed closely by the recitation of the Gurdwara, which is all of them within the vicinity of Cheetah, and in Sundays by the peal of church bells from St. Stephen's Church. Nobody created it. It is part of the evolutional, civilizational harmony that has always been the most important part of our country. And therefore, there has never been a question of any person's rights being taken away or diminished or altered in any way, certainly not the 200 million Indian Muslims still living there. The problems that arose, you must remember that this was put in the manifesto of the party, that this would happen. Not during the whole election campaign, no one from the Congress party or any opposition party ever raised this as an issue. I was sitting in Parliament and passing this law. There was hardly, virtually any debate on this issue, much to our regret. After the law had been passed, a certain campaign was carried out which misled, unfortunately, our Muslim brothers and sisters on this subject. It was part, I'm afraid to say, of a campaign of disinformation which succeeded in raising fears. But that is part of democracy. We are a proud democracy. We engage, we talk to our Muslim brothers and sisters, say that their fears are completely unfounded. Has been a touch of, in recent days, an explosion of 2 days, a day of violence, which was there in all the newspapers. But those of you who have read about it, may I please tell you that behind the regrettable, unfortunate, all violence, all anger is unacceptable, totally unacceptable. But the manner in which it was calmed down, it was brought under control. But I think even in the midst of this misfortune, you saw, those of you who have eyes can go and see, even here we saw marvelous instances of the two communities, Hindus and Muslims, helping each other, giving shelter, giving protection, reaching out to each other. Ordinary people reaching out to each other. That is our India. That is the India which we are so proud of. We are not a theocratic nation, unlike a particular neighbor. We don't go into any ism. Our only ism is democracy and equality and the fraternity of others. And as Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nations, in every respect, we are in the midst of celebrating 150th year of his birth. But Gandhiji, what he said remains true, that Hindus and Muslims are one. God has made them one, and man cannot drive them apart. That is our philosophy. That is the truth of our India. And I know that very surreptitiously the chair is slowly moving towards me to telling me that he has certainly had enough of my intervention. I don't know about you, but I'll leave it for the moment at that. If there are any questions later, we shall take them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and we'll have the questions at the end if that's okay with everybody. I won't try to summarise every speech after the speech because otherwise we'll have not enough time. We'll pass over now to Fulvio Montusciello, Member of the European Parliament, for his intervention, please.
Thank you. I think that the world community must support India. Criticism and on faulty grounds is a tool of those who want to keep the fact away from the conscience of the world community.
Button. Red. Yes.
So we must keep a positive check on facts before raising a figure on the country that has proven since its independence that the ideals of democracy, unity in diversity, secularism and brotherhood forms its base. Yes, there is no doubt that I am mentioning about India in my reference. Bringing the internal matter of India on international platform for discussion, be in the United Nations or European Union, is not justified. India has never interfered the internal issue of other countries. The same, the world community must follow because the European Union has expressed faith in the Citizen Amendment Act to have maintained the high standard of the Constitution of India that governs the world's largest democracy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his cabinet has clarified that the passing of the Citizenship Amendment Act in no way will affect the rights of minorities residing in India, because the Act has nothing to do with the Indian citizens. With the new citizenship law, the religious minorities of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, who fled this nation and took refuge in India before December 31, 2014, will be given Indian citizenship that will provide them with their well-deserved rights, including electoral rights, rights to education, employment opportunities, and equality. Citizenship Amendment Act will also protect these religious minorities from the evils of forced conversion to Islam in these Islamic nations. With the passing of the CAA, the Indian government aims at undoing the wrongs suffered by these persecuted communities, as by attaining citizenship, they will be able to benefit from all the central and state schemes of India that by far they have been kept away from. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is firm in his decision on it, and that reflects his commitment to maintain the value of democracy in India and not bow down to petty politics of the nation or elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fulvio. Next, then, we pass to His Excellency Umar Ahmed Ilyasi, Chief Imam of India. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmadu wa nasalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Dignitaries, guests of honors, scholars, high achievements, participants, organizers, facilitators, and brothers and sisters, I extend to each one of you the Islamic greetings of peace. I stand here as the Chief Imam of All India Imam Organization. Imam Organization represents 500,000 Imams of India, who lead the large Muslim community in every nook and corner of the country. India has the largest numbers of mosques in the world, and therefore the Imam Organization happens to be the largest body of the community of Imams, both in India and at the global level. We cater to the religious and spiritual needs of the large Muslim community of India. After Indonesia, India is the second largest home of Muslims in the world. I'm happy to be here in Geneva. Brothers and sisters, Indian Constitution provides equal opportunities of every citizen irrespective of their religion or caste. India is a country which welcomes all diverse viewpoints. All diverse opinions of the Muslims in India are the safer than any other parts of the world in terms of equal opportunity. Muslims in India are more fortunate than those in the Islamic countries, as they can worship in any Islamic tradition here, be it Deobandi, Barelvi, Sufi, Shia, etc. India's secular democracy does not allow special privilege based on religion. India's democratic and pluralistic ethos, long history of interfaith relations, rich cultured heritage, shared mystical practices, and common linguistic and ritual traditions are at the root of mutual Muslims and Hindu acceptance. Indians of the faiths also have the same passions: music, Bollywood, biryani, tea, samosa, and cricket. For a country that boasts of the tremendous diversity in languages, religion, and ethnicities, India does have a core culture. That core culture is infused with Muslim content and has also shaped Muslims' consequence in India. After the US invasion of Iraq in 2003, we witnessed a spark in radicalization of Muslims in Europe and the Middle East, and thousands went to Iraq to participate in jihad against the West. This radicalization continued with the emergence of the Islamic State in 2014, attracting recruits even from tiny nations like Finland and Trinidad. The contribution of Indian Muslims to terrorist movements like Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, and the Taliban, relatively speaking, was next to nothing. The economists attributed this moderation to integration with Hindus, India's secular constitution, and the impact of Sufism. The government also released reports acknowledging disadvantages faced by Muslims and making recommendations. The Satcher report provided detailed research on Muslim socio-economic conditions and made a wide range of proposals, from evaluating textbooks of ensure they promote a religious tolerance to recognizing degrees from madrasas to combating Muslim unemployment rates. All the communities live here peacefully and in complete harmony with each other under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. We in India are trying our level best to take the opportunities of development in every home and to every family. Consequently, a just social order is fast in evolving, and mutual trust between the state, its governance, and the people of India is creating a new history of cohesion and consensus. Dear brothers and sisters, the Citizenship Amendment Act. The Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 was passed by the Parliament of India on 11th December 2019. It amended the Citizenship Act 1955 by providing a path of Indian citizen for illegal migrants of Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jain, Parsi, and Christian religious minorities who had fled persecution from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan before December 2014. CAA does not impact Indian citizens in any manner. It relates to individuals who are currently not citizens of India. India has always stood strong when it comes to protecting the humanitarian ideals of the world, and the making of the Citizenship Amendment Act is only a step forward in strengthening its hold upon the country's commitment to aid those who have been facing the bells of the religious persecution. The Citizenship Amendment Act will not only remove the tag of illegal migrants from the people of these 6 communities coming from these neighboring nations, but will also provide them with the all legal and constitutional right by getting Indian citizenship after residing in India for 5 years instead of the earlier requirement of 11 years. Muslims from these countries can still gain Indian citizenship through the regular process under the Amendment Citizenship Act 1955, which requires the applicant to have resided in India for 11 of the previous 14 years. Therefore, the CAA just fast-tracked the citizenship for persecuted minorities in these 3 countries. The constitution of these countries are non-secular and promote one religion, thereby having led to the consistent decline in populations of their minorities since partition. In contrast, the population of minorities in India remains at similar level and continues to grow in absolute numbers. Many wrongly assume that the CAA is excluding citizenship of Muslims in India. There is best misinformation. Every Muslim born Muslim citizens of India are automatic citizens of India. There is no stripping of citizenship from any Muslim in India. The CAA doesn't take away any rights of Indian Muslims. Importantly, Article 11 of Indian Constitution mandates Parliament to regulate the rights of citizenship. We are committed to the world peace and believe in peaceful resolution of conflicts. Neighbor first policy is the cornerstone of our foreign policy. We are marching towards a new dawn of progress and prosperity. There is no looking back now. On my behalf and on behalf of my strong Imam community of India, assure the House that we are there to help any cause that contributes towards building a more cohesive and progressive society. I thank you for all listening me to patiently and giving me the opportunity for speak. May God bless you all. Jazakumullah khairan.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that impassioned address. We now pass to our fourth speaker, Ms. Atika Ahmed Faruqi, journalist covering minority affairs in India. So, Ms. Atika, what do you have to say about the situation of Indian Muslims and how this compares with Muslims in other countries? Thank you.
Hello and a very good afternoon to all the esteemed members of the panel, and thank you all for making time for us. I sit here on this illustrious stage as a person who represents the largest democracy in the world, home to more than 1.3 billion people, myriad cultures and demographies, many faiths and religions. This country is not easy to govern. Here are the lines we said while adopting, enacting and giving to ourselves our constitution on the 26th day of November 1949. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. I, as a person who was raised in a very cosmopolitan world of India, who sees a person not through the prism of his religion, race, caste, or gender, I can assure you that people in my country largely think on the same lines. I come from the land of Mahatma Gandhi, the man who has taught the whole of this world how patience, courage, fearlessness, and goal-oriented efforts can move mountains. And he famously said, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. Yes, there are conflicts. There will always be, in every part of the world, as there are in India. But we are coping with them with unity and dignity. I hope the world understands that the word religion as a human identity is slowly losing its significance. In India, we are governed, impacted, and coordinated into groups of people on the basis of our culture, food habits, festivals, languages, and not on the basis of religion alone. Allow me to give you an example of India's binding culture. A Muslim bride in the Middle East wears a white Christian gown on the day of her marriage, and the bride and the groom ceremoniously proceed to their own house, a third one just for themselves. While in India, a Muslim bride wears red, the color of fire that symbolizes a Hindu wedding, the auspicious color of matrimony in Hindus, and mostly the bride accompanies the barat, that's the family of the groom, and moves into their home. Ladies and gentlemen, our popular culture, traditions, and beliefs, whatever you may call them, are orchestrated not by the uniformity of religion, but by the plurality of our culture in India. I have traveled to many Muslim majority countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Dubai, Malaysia, but my experience as a citizen of India surpasses all. Article 15 of our Constitution states that no citizen of India shall be discriminated on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. In my career spanning 16 years in films, television, and news, I can bear the testimony of all of the above fundamental rights as granted to me. India is a place where women from all backgrounds are thriving, It's a fertile ground for the dreams to flourish. Each one of us has had terrific opportunities, and we have taken them with both hands. From Fatima Sheikh and Savitri Bhai Phule, who took onto themselves the mammoth responsibility of imparting knowledge to the poorest children in the social strata, to lakhs of Muslim women who continue to make a space for themselves in the field of science, education, technology, media, and businesses. It's our constitution that's paving the path for all of us, along with our own simple will. Allow me to be the voice of many people who represent the Indian Muslims. Though I firmly believe that we are not Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs and Christians and Parsis in the 21st century. Rather, we as Indians are simply curious, hardworking, constantly struggling people with Hindu-sounding names and Muslim-sounding names and Sikh-sounding names and Christian-sounding names. Because had everyone been following their religion earnestly, believe me, wouldn't there be practically no tussle and no conflict on the face of earth? Also, how does one's religion that he or she was born in be the face of his identity in this modern world, I ask? In the recent times, there has been much discussion on Citizenship Amendment Act that has been passed in both the houses in Indian Parliament. The Indian government has assured time and again that in undivided India that was fighting together for freedom. Once the freedom was handed over to us, people got bifurcated by borders. Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan follows a certain religion. And the minorities in those countries who fought for the independence of India pre-1947 could anytime come back to the secular democracy of India. This act is to give immigrants the citizenship of India who were once a part of undivided India. It is not here to take away anybody's citizenship. Dear members of the United Nations Human Rights Council, members of media, and my dear friends, the world is a global village. A disaster in one corner of the world is bound to have a deep impact in the other remote corner too. While we are sovereign countries, let's make a promise to have each other's backs. We will look up to you as you watch where we are going to. Remembering Mahatma Gandhi again, you must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. And he also said, in a gentle way, we can shake the world. I'm Atika Farooqi, thanking you profusely for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Atika. And next and last, Pablo Casaca, founder and executive director of the South Asia Democratic Forum. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I am very much honored to be here with such a select and diverse list of speakers that already alluded to the crux of the matter. I would like to stress that, in my view, this is a tremendous question to the European institutions, because once again the European institutions just decided to make themselves an echo chamber of a media campaign orchestrated to transform what is an act that actually withdraws no right to absolutely nobody, but just makes a fast-track procedure to certain groups in certain neighboring countries. And the European institutions should be on the side of showing that this should be sorted out, any differences should be sorted out in a peaceful way, promoting understanding and not promoting hysteria, not promoting hate, not fueling what is in any sense pure fake news. But they did it. They did it. They feed this campaign, and furthermore, they obviously disregarded what is the most important issue, which is India is the biggest democracy in the world. It's not a tyranny where there is no democratic procedure. As it is very well acknowledged, a lot of people, for whatever reason, disagreed. Opposition did. There is a petition that went to the constitutional authorities. All the democratic system is working. So why, on what ground does the European Union decide to say to India, well, you should, instead of these groups of refugees, you should look at these others? On what ground? And politically, what does it mean? A Europe that is absolutely unable to confront the consequences of the war in Syria, that it really assisted without doing nothing and allowed 10 million people to be displaced, hundreds of thousands dead, and now it is in confronting the very likely possibility of having hundreds of thousands of refugees at its borders, and it can do nothing, and it does not, is not able to get together, it's not able to act, and instead of looking at itself, it's trying to lecture India, because India gave a step, but the step should not be that one, but should be different and should be larger. This is absolutely lunacy. These European institutions like that are going nowhere, and I think they have very rapidly to amend their way of acting, of reasoning, and of trying to set norms for the rest of the world. Otherwise, we see Europe to be part of the problem instead of being part of the solution. I think that the European leaders, when they saw the dramatic events of last few days, where unfortunately there was so much bloodshed, so much confrontation, and this really makes me feel so sad, and I would like to convey to the Indian authorities my deepest sympathy for what happened. Well, European authorities should ask themselves, what did we do to help? Well, actually, they did nothing to help. And they just made things worse without any basis whatsoever. There is no basis for this crisis. This is absolute disinformation campaign made for political objectives, for destabilization objectives that has nothing to do with the reality. I think that Europe should make an exam of conscience, and it really needs to put its act together, because we are now going to see, especially with the new increase in the crisis in Syria that was never sorted out, that if it doesn't, Europe will really face a tremendous situation in its own territory, and that's really a problem for all of us. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you all for your magnificent presentations, very diverse. I think you really managed to get here a very good panel, and now let's go for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo. If I may, I'll just do a very, very brief summary of some of the things which I felt were particularly important from the thousands of things that our distinguished speakers said. If I get it wrong, apologies, that's my fault, not theirs. First of all, I think it's important to say that it's been underlined that Islam is the second largest religion in India. 14% approximately of the country's population are Muslim, and therefore this is not an attack on Muslims per se. It is an attempt to increase the certainty of citizenship in India, amending an act which has been there since 1955, which happens to be the year of my birth, and if nothing had happened in my life since the year of my birth, it would be catastrophic. I would not be speaking remotely intelligently today, but the world has changed, India has changed, the situation overall has changed, and this is an attempt to provide some clarity. It's an attempt to provide a fast track to citizenship for certain categories of people in neighbouring states who face persecution or fear of persecution. It is an attempt to make sure that the unemployment situation and the educational possibilities in India are clarified for these groups which are suffering at the moment. It is a fact that all Islamic worship is welcome in India, and there has never been any denial of Muslim rights in the country with its secular socialist constitution, where all are equal. Religion is not the prime thing which is driving the integration of people within countries. It is more about festivals, food and culture and other things which do bind people, no matter what their basic religion. It is not a question of the Citizenship Amendment Act trying to be promoting of fear and hysteria, even though that has been the reaction of the media and certain groups within the country and outside, and even of the European Parliament. But the last thing is that we need to question political objectives. The political objective in this case seems to have been very positive. So what we need to do is to make sure that the effect is very positive, and anything that anybody can do to help in that direction will, I am sure, be very much appreciated. So, with thanks to the distinguished speakers, I will now pass the floor open to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for His Excellency Akbar Sahab. Akbar Sahab, my parents were born in India, Gujarat, and they migrated to Pakistan, where I was born in Karachi. So I'm a Muhajir. I don't enjoy equal rights in Pakistan. Thousands of Muhajirs have disappeared. Thousands have been killed. Baloch are being killed. Forced conversion is going on in Pakistan unnoticed. Nobody is speaking about it, where minority girls, minor girls, 14 years, 15-year-old girls are kidnapped, raped, forcibly converted to Islam and married to the rapist. And nobody is speaking about it. My question is that, why my ancestors' country is not speaking for us? Why in your Senate where you sit, never ever our issue is raised while Pakistan is running a proxy war in India? Pakistan openly says that we will support Kashmir, we will do everything for Kashmir, for Indian Muslims. We, with the DNA of India, we request to Indian government that please speak about our issue also. I'm sure you know what's happening in Pakistan. Thank you.
What you say is undeniably a fact. We have, as a foreign policy principle, we respect and we believe that we should not interfere in the internal affairs of another nation, and we expect the same courtesy from others. However, on the question of where human rights, which is resistance, we all know the stories of Asia Bibi, we know what is happening in Karachi, we know, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but this much I can say, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has made this absolutely clear, and I think it requires clarity, that as far as said, and all the speakers have said, that in India, Indian Muslims have completely equal rights and so on. But as far as your point is concerned, may I also clarify that any Muslim from anywhere, including Pakistan, can apply for Indian citizenship. Can, I say this here, again, on the record, can apply for Indian citizenship. There is a very famous case, which I can refer to, since as a popular singing star, his name would be familiar at least to those who enjoy the music of of India and the subcontinent. Adnan Sami was made a citizen of India by the normal process of law, with the signature of Home Minister Rajnath Singh and the Prime Ministership of Narendra Modi. And this year, Prime Minister Modi has actually given Adnan Sami one of the national awards. So this other sorry to use the word, propaganda, that Muslims are being denied citizenship, they are not. And Adnan's army is a perfectly good example.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question?
Thank you, sir. My name is Hassan. I am from Srinagar, the Indian-held Kashmir. My question is to Mr. M.J. Akbar. As I know, Mr. Akbar is a fearless writer and a well-known figure in our region. He always speaks truth. So my question is directed to you, sir. One of your writers and a great intellectual, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, has said that it is easier to be a cow than a Muslim in India. Sir, do you agree with it? Thank you.
Well, I don't want to comment on a colleague, but I assume I am correct when I say that Shashi is neither. So the experience of either case is not totally familiar with. And I think, sometimes when you're in opposition, you tend to make rhetorical points. But I would like to assure Mr. Tharoor, and I would like to assure everyone here, that Indian Muslims live a life of equality, which is most important, of equal rights, equal opportunities. You have to look at the development record. One of the great stories of the last 5 years, which is never really brought to the surface, is the emancipation from poverty, which has happened to over 300 million people. And how through very specifically developmental programs, social security is being given for the first time to the poor. Technology is being given for the first time to the poor. Banking accounts have made them part of the fiscal story of India's development, and so on and so forth. I could name through gas, through sanitation, through the remarkable story of 400 million toilets being given to people's homes. And now we are in the midst of another great story, which is delivering water to 150 million homes. 150 million homes in the space of next 3 years. Now these are huge projects. The point that I'm trying to make, that every bit of statistical evidence shows that Indian Muslims have been given equal rights and equal benefits in these programs. And that is true equality. That is not simply the equality of words, that is the equality of action.
Thank you very much. We have time probably for 2 more questions if they're short. Anybody wishing to have a question? Okay, well, if there aren't any, we have 5 minutes, which means 1 minute each maximum for each of our speakers if they would like to make any concluding remarks.
Let's start.
I would request everybody present here in this room to kindly pay one visit to India. Can we do a quick sampling? How many of you have been to India? Can you raise your hands? A decent number. The ones who haven't been, please visit our country once, just to get an idea, fair idea of the kind of life we have in India, the kind of culture we have in India, the kind of how beautifully we assemble, how we are different, yet we are similar. Apart from it, I think no other words can define what India as a country is.
सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान.
Yaqinan. Yaqinan.
I think that in European Parliament we started to debate about this topic, and I don't understand why, because it's internal question, internal topic of India. So I hope that the European Union can stay close at India
and don't start a fight with this country.
हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी का जो नारा है, जो सबसे बड़ा नारा है, और जिन्होंने सारे दुनिया को ये बताया, सारे लोगों को बताया, सबका साथ, सबका विकास और सबका विश्वास, ये बहुत बड़ा नारा है जिसे वो अपना भी रहे हैं और हमें उस नारे को समझने की जरूरत है। बस ट्रांसलेट कर दीजिएगा।
He meant to say that Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, says that development for all, support from all, and goodwill for all. Basically, he aspires India to be an inclusive country where nobody would be prejudiced against, nobody will have special favors. Anything and everything is for the entire, the population, all the countrymen. Nobody is this and nobody is that. Simple.
The only thing I have to say is when the number of hands went up, I was totally disappointed. Too few. Trust me, come to India and see another world. And don't only come for the India of monuments, come to the India of people. Thank you all for being here. Truly thank you.
Mr. President, I would just like very much that India and Europe, we would work together to fight against the situations that unfortunately exist and are very serious of religious discrimination in the world. There are awful cases around the world, and we should work together, and we should never allow for disinformation campaigns, manipulation that want to bring cows to be in the upper hand. We should be intelligent and we should know how to act in these circumstances, and I think European leaders were not up to the circumstances this time. Thank you.
Okay, so that more or less concludes the conference. Thank you very much indeed to all of the 5 speakers. I think we're all agreed that India is an incredible country. It says Incredible India on the adverts. Go see is the short answer from everybody here. I have, but I haven't been enough, so I will be going again, convinced by the kind words of all of our panelists and realizing that India is improving. It's a huge democracy, it's a huge democratic challenge, but everything is moving. Let's help it move in the right direction by visiting and making sure we come back with our impressions and have informed views, not misinformation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you a good afternoon and evening.
So I think it was a good conference. and the panelist, Indian Muslims, the true Indian Muslims. क्या हुआ भाई? हाँ. So they did not give any facts, and everything was correct. I am happy for this conference by my fellow Muslims, and will come back later. Bye.